Hi, Stitchers. Welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Amani here with my co-host Lena, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
On today's episode, we are chatting with Noora, co-founder of Taita Leila, which is a feminist social enterprise and fashion label reimagining Palestine embroidery, keeping ancestral stories alive in ways that would make our grandmothers proud. Welcome to Tatreez Talk, Noora.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We're excited to chat with you. I know that you and Lena have already been connected, and she said a lot of great things about you. So I'm excited to dive in. Obviously, like I know you from the social world and love the stuff that you're doing. But let's kick off by introducing you to our listeners a little bit by sharing you and your family's connection to Palestine.
Okay. Whew. So I think that probably one of the best ways to describe it is via Taita Leila. It is so just for the people, I don't know how what kind of audience you have, but for the people who don't know, Taita means grandmother in Arabic. It's like a or grandma. It's more of a informal way to call your grandmother. So my grandmother is Leila al-Khalidi. She's from the Khalidi family from Jerusalem, and she wrote a book called The Art of Palestinian Embroidery. And it inspired this fashion label that you're talking about. The way I always introduce us is that we were kind of, we're naughty grandchildren taking apart all the traditional and research and all of the stuff that comes with heritage in general, not just Palestinian heritage. But in our case, we're playing around with it. And because it's Palestinian, obviously, it is even more politicized. And so we're very conscious of that element as well. But yeah, so I basically from my father's side, very, very Jerusalemite families, Husseini Khalidi. But Khalidi is the one that we focused on for inspiring the whole embroidery project that we're going to talk about today.
Oh, that's amazing. You know, I didn't know that she was your grandmother. I have her book actually. It's one of the first
Oh,
Tatreez books that I got my hands
Yeah,
on.
like
Yeah.
it's over there.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
I
we
love
love
that.
that. Yeah,
That's so great to
absolutely.
know. I'm actually working on a second edition. We're trying to figure out.
Wow.
So we're one of the things that well, I guess I can say this posthumously, but one of the things that she was very frustrated about with her publishers was that they didn't organize the motifs the way that she wanted. And one of
Mm,
the things I want to do is make the motifs a lot more easier to see because they're very small in the book.
Yes.
So I want to make them really much bigger and to make this more of a book that you can use as a reference for embroidery, as well as keep all of her tags. Like I don't want to touch her text too much since
yeah,
she did a lot of the research of that a lot of people like herself, Lena, but others who
Yeah.
have said this to me that they use it as the basis for their work, like Wafa Ghanem,
Hmm.
name from Tatreez Talk. There's also people like I forgot her name from the British Museum.
Rachel
Oh,
Dedman, maybe.
not Rachel Dedman. No, another generation. It's
Oh, oh,
I'll it will come to me at some point. But there are a lot of people who have said, "Oh yes, I know of your grandmother's work." It's really great to hear. I'm sure
oh.
she would
Yeah.
have loved to hear that, especially even now. She did die about five years ago, maybe a bit more
Allah
now.
Allah
yarhamha.
yarhamha.
Thank you, thank you. باقي في حياتكم. But yeah, so I'm working on a second edition. It might take a lot longer than I was hoping, as these things tend to do. But that's the plan. The plan is to have an easier embroidery reference as well as her text.
That's so beautiful. So I'm actually very curious. What was your relationship like with your teta, and maybe also from like the lens of Tatreez? Like, how did you learn, and was it through her? And what did you learn through her about Tatreez that you didn't know before?
My grandmother was really into crafts. When you went into her house so unfortunately she was exiled from Jerusalem, so she didn't get to go back and live there. She lived in Amman, but her house in Amman, it was just full of all kinds of crafts. She was a huge appreciator of everything to do. So we had like the Hebron glass, we had woven uh suf. What's suf? It's wool, I think, right? From the Bedouin
Hmm.
communities. There was also leather. There was all of the stuff. It wasn't just Tatreez, but her
Hmm.
focus and her research was mostly on the embroidery. And to be fair, we weren't really. big practicers, as in she was more, it was more of an intellectual exercise. I think this is very the Kharidi side, like being librarians, and she was a
Mm.
librarian herself. It was much more of a, she had an amazing library. It's still in Amman. It's still the one I use. And when we kicked off the company, it was the one I used to reference how we all the stories that we were telling about the Palestinian thobe and all these things. So she had, I mean, some gorgeous books. Widat Kawar, for example, some, those big coffee books, some Japanese references. There was just so many different references that she had. That was how I think the embroidery aspect was introduced into my life, more so than the practice. The practice was something I had to get better at, but I always caveat in the workshops that I'm really not that good compared to other people that I've met. I've met some spectacular embroiderers, obviously through this process, and even people like my husband, he's much better than me. So I'm not bad, don't get me wrong, but there are some people who are just incredibly talented. It's so
Yeah.
talented. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. No, I hear that. But it's interesting that you came in through kind of the research academic lens of Tatreez, because that's I guess a little bit of a different path
Yeah.
than most people take. So when did you I guess from that path, like what age were you when you were kind of like first gaining this interest and like paying attention to what was going on?
I would say so we set up Taita Leila in 2014 was when I started to do this seriously. I had an idea in about, I think it was about 2013, and the concept of Taita Leila, like the word,
Hmm.
grandchildren, inheriting heritage, and like all these things were just coming to me just in my head. And I was working a very boring engineering job at the time. And I just I think part of growing up, I didn't have this romanticized Palestinian experience that some people, especially in the diaspora, have. It didn't have this idealized version of our homeland, or we actually went quite often every year, twice a year, up until the Second Intifada. So I think that was around 2001. But since 2001 until 2013, I hadn't been. And I was kind of feeling like that's a long time not to see family, not to see friends. And I also, because I was older then, I think I was in 2014, I would have been 28 or 7. And I wanted to go back and sort of make my own way, meet my own
Mm.
people. I think that's also very important for generally diasporized people, whatever community you come from, not just to rely on your parents and what they, you know, following them throughout everything. It's also a great idea to have your own way into your heritage, and it's more yours that way. It can also look very different to what they expect, which was really fun for me because I found this very progressive and underground scene as well at the same time while setting this up, and met all these other fashion brands and other creatives and such. So for me, that's when I started thinking about it very, very seriously. And I quit my job in 2014, and we did a crowdfunding campaign. And throughout that, it was a very exploratory experience. Like I was going all over. I was meeting all different kinds of communities. I met my co-founder. She's from Haifa. So we also had that influence. Thankfully, we had like all the different, we weren't stuck to just the West Bank experience or anything like that. We purposefully worked to have a unified Palestinian
Mm.
identity and experience, and we still
Yeah.
do. And yeah, so it was just through that like exposure to all these different people and seeing how it's actually practiced, what are people actually doing on the ground. And because there's so many great brands, but they were mostly the really well-known brands. I felt at the time, this is again, remember something like 10 years ago, were mostly in Jordan and Lebanon.
Mm.
So they weren't in Palestine, and I wanted to make something in Palestine, as difficult as it was going to be, and it still is. We haven't made
Yeah.
anything in Palestine for the last 2 years.
Mm.
As difficult as it is, I wanted to insist on that aspect of it should be made in Palestine, as much as we can. So I guess, yeah, I guess that's how I'd summarize it. It was an exploration,
Hmm.
but also of the place at the same. So
Hmm.
I was reacquainting myself with something, with my heritage. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I mean, that's kind of what Tatreez does, right? Tatreez is, well, at least in my opinion, it's my way of connecting to Palestine in my own way. And
Yeah.
I think being able to tap into all of the different stories that Tatreez tells by talking to the people on the ground can really help showcase the diversity and the breadth of Palestinian experience, which I think is really, really powerful. I guess what was the crowdfunding for at the time? And I'm curious, how has kind of the label and the business changed over the last 10 years?
So the crowdfunding was just to get us started, and we were offering samples. So those were the gifts that we were putting, the rewards, I think you call them, right? As part of the crowdfunding campaign, the first few samples as our part of our debut collection. We so we ended up going with this concept. So our first few collections, we focused on the thobe in its quite classical form. So all of the different components of the thobe, the ebbe, the chest panel, which is usually the most prominent, the most detailed part of the thobe, which usually tells the most about the piece itself. And then later on for the next two collections, we focused on some of the detailing because they're also little cute stories in that as well. And so yeah, the three first collections, the Abbe, the Benayek, which was the side panels, and the Irdan, which is the sleeves, those three were our Anatomy of a Taube series. But the crowdfunding campaign was raising just for the Abbe collection and just for a few pieces in the Abbe collection as a kind of test. Do people like this idea? And to be fair, some of our bestsellers were in the rewards, like the Ramallah top that we had from the Ebbe collection, which was pretty much untouched taupe. It was just the silhouette that we changed to make it a bit more wearable day to day. So you didn't need to be in a full taupe to wear it. It's such a beautiful piece, right? Um, is still it was our bestseller for a long time. Yeah.
Introducing the drop that nobody asked for, Resolute RGL, the sneaker that takes centuries of Palestinian resistance and sells it back to you in leather. Co-founder Yossi Levin calls it empowerment. We call it exploitation. Same guy who once erased Palestinians from his projects in Haifa, now stitching Tatreez into a shoe to build his quote-unquote multi-million-dollar brand. They say it's bridging local and global. Translation: Palestinian women stitch, Europe profits, Israel wins. Limited edition, unlimited hypocrisy. Don't buy the hype, boycott Resolute RGL. This anti-ad was produced by Tatreez Talk. We stitch, we talk, we boycott.
And so, okay, you mentioned that you made a very strategic decision to have your stuff made in Palestine. You
Mm,
also said that the last 2 years you haven't been able to have anything made in Palestine. So obviously there were challenges
yeah.
before the genocide. There's new challenges now. What has that, like, can you talk about what that experience has been like from kind of start to now?
Yeah. So it was always difficult in general. Like, so one particular thing we don't like to do is focus on our brand identity as being by the occupation, as in it is a passing part of our history, hopefully soon. Um, but it is, we have such a long history as Palestinians. Our history goes thousands of years, and we didn't want to make our brand just about this moment in time. But it was difficult to do things. We were stopped at checkpoints. People production was slow because a lot of the times the days that we'd coordinate to meet with people, oh, settlers have been attacking us. Don't come today, stay home, etc. This is the kind of obstacles that we had up against us. So we didn't want to be defined by the occupation, but they were obviously there. The problems that come with that were obviously there. However, with the genocide, it was worse, obviously, I'm sure you both know how much worse things are getting over there with the settler violence and you know, I mean, so many horrible things. Um, but we also felt as a brand for a long time, we were like, how can we think about fashion in a famine? How can we think about all these things that are somewhat trivial in a way that we can, how do we exist in a way that we are okay with continuing with our brand and at the same time feel like we are doing something for our brethren in Gaza. We have made stuff in Gaza before. We have coordinated with people in Gaza before. It's been impossibly difficult, but we
Yeah.
did manage, like we had to smuggle things. Probably shouldn't say this. Across various borders from various people. So like
Mhm.
it has been so difficult. So we were really very, very conscientious of what can we do that doesn't make us feel self-focused, but in a way that we are still promoting our culture. It's still important. It's still, soft power and all of that. Maybe it's not the moment for this stuff. And for a long, long while, we went back and forth. We were thinking about this a lot. And we ended up deciding on working with women in Egypt. So our last collection is called Taita Leila in Egypt. And we have a sort of coordinator now. She's from she has her own brand. It's called Kinar Embroidery. And it was an establishment in Gaza. She lost everything,
Mhm.
everything. Her studio, she said she had an apartment, like a family block, and then there was a floor that she had as her studio. All the fabrics have been destroyed. She lost everything. She lost the connection. She said at one point she had 150 women work with her. She lost all of this. She basically started from zero. Her family were stuck there for 5 months. She, coincidentally, on October 6th, was in Cyprus for a workshop.
Wow.
So you can
Wow.
imagine, yeah, her situation, October 6th, she's out of the country. And then for a long time, her family who were there were just stuck. They were stuck for about 5 months. They managed to evacuate when the borders were open. Alhamdulillah, yani they got out. But she was just waiting 5 months and yeah, and then they found out everything's gone, everything is destroyed. She would say I have to start from zero. So she was perfect for this because she already knew embroidery, she already knows how to do this stuff. She was also herself trying to find people to work with. And
Mhm.
we were also interested in upskilling people. And the reason we sort of did something a little bit different in that we were working on a print and embroidery. Normally, so probably should have said this in the beginning. Our ethos is always about embroidery in the clothing. That
Yeah.
that is the main feature of our brand, right? It has to be featured and incorporated, and the concept is the main thing that we're talking about. It has to relate to the embroidery. In this one, the embroidery was not as important as it was making something fast in this collection. We wanted to make something quickly. So one of the ways we got around that was by having a print that gave enough of a guideline for people, especially people who are learning, to make something quickly. And the idea was we pay them fast, and this way they have cash in hand to be able to afford whatever expenses they have, to send back money, to, medical bills, all the different horrific situations we were hearing about at the time. And that was the compromise, let's say, of our vision. We didn't have a full-fledged collection. We just had these pieces that we made in a sort of emergency situation, but it was the
Mhm.
way we felt that we were most respectful to what was going on and still paying tribute to Gaza. So all the women who are doing the embroidery are Gazans. The
Mhm.
artist who came up with the print is from Gaza. So it was still very much like focused on, we use the saru motif from Gaza as the main
Mhm.
option as well. It's a protective motif. It's the one that it's also because a lot of people in Gaza would have cypress trees around their house for privacy and such. So it was also this tribute to them.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was the only way that we felt we could keep on, I guess.
Mhm.
And just because also everything that was happening, 48 West Bank was also so horrific that we just said, this is the year we'll just do everything in Egypt and take it from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very real. Even Amani and I, we talk about this all the time. How do we even show up online these days? Because
Mhm.
that space
Yeah,
is reserved for those voices in Gaza. Like they need that platform for, unfortunately, showing what they are experiencing every single day
Mhm.
yeah,
because the world continues to remain silent. But that is a really beautiful way of kind of figuring out something that can still advance your brand, but also keep the voices of Gaza front and center.
Yeah.
Because the Palestinians in Egypt is also an experience. The Gazans in Egypt is an,
exactly.
I mean, they have no access to work visas, no access to
Exactly.
schools, nothing. Like
Yeah.
it's,
They're in limbo.
yeah, just because you're not like suffering from bombs and starvation doesn't mean you're not at, risk for all of these horrendous experiences. Um,
They might also be indirectly suffering from all that, right? Because
yeah,
Mhm.
like I was saying, the Kinar embroidery, her name is Maha. She herself had family for how long there? They still
yeah,
obviously know
Yeah.
so many people there. So they're still obviously being updated all the time about all these people who are
absolutely.
dying and things. So they're still very, I mean, they might be
Yeah.
safe, quotation marks,
Yeah.
safe, but as you said, there's a whole other challenge with being in Egypt as well. And no, and she would never, I mean, she would definitely want to go back if she could. That was
Yeah, of
something she kept
course.
saying, and her family wanted to go back as soon as they can. But yeah, it's a horrible situation. Yeah.
Yeah. It truly is. I mean, honestly, I commend you for like working with them and working through this. Like, I think you guys have come up with a way to, as Lena said, kind of honor Palestinians in Gaza and honor what's going on, and still, honoring tradition and culture and what you guys are trying to do in like this new approach to Tatreez, if you will. Um, what what do you feel like is the next step for your brand?
Well, that's a difficult question. I think in terms of we have all these like research projects that I was telling you, like for example, the one with my updating my grandmother's book.
Hmm.
There's something else. So in my day job, I'm a data scientist. So I work in AI, and I have an idea for something that I want to do AI based that might take some time.
Hmm.
And it goes hand in hand with my grandmother's embroidery project. So those are things that are coming up, but they don't have the urgency, or they don't have the or the impact, I guess, as releasing a collection every so often. Previously, we wanted to aim for about a collection a year or so.
Hmm.
Uh, Now it's anybody's guess. We might continue with this the Taita Leila في المصر project that we're talking about, and that we might expand to make a few more products. It did quite well. Um, but as in past that, I really don't know. I think we have to see how things go. There was a point where we wanted to do a huge tribute collection where it would be focused on Gaza. It's beautiful embroidery, like the stories of Al-Majdal and the pinky
Mm,
colors that Gaza's
Hmm.
famous for, and then the patterns of like triangular kilada necklaces and things that Gaza is famous for. And we wanted to do the shooting in a way that was honoring, or the photo shooting in a way that was honoring beautiful seaside imagery,
mm,
this sort of thing. Like we wanted to do more of a tribute
Yeah.
um, to counter all the images that we see all the time of the destruction. And, you just see everyone in gray dust,
yeah,
Hmm.
rubble, bleeding. If it's prominent, it's red, right? And just all these
Hmm.
horrible things. But we also wanted we that is something we would like to do.
Hmm.
When we'll do it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I don't think we could do it. This is what I'm saying is like in the middle of a genocide, it would feel
Yeah.
totally
yeah,
wrong to do this.
Hmm.
And that's why we would probably focus on expanding that collection, the Taita Leila Masr collection, especially as the women upskill themselves, and we can, if they need more income and more expenses. But again, they're also under a lot of stress, and we're not trying to pressure them. And that's
yeah,
something we tell our
Yeah.
clients, that we're not pressuring them. If it takes
Yeah.
them 3 months to make a piece, so be it, okay? You have to be patient. They're going through
Mm-hmm.
hell.
Yeah.
You cannot be a demanding customer for this for these pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, I really hope that, Allah يفرجها عن قريب, and it will just end sometime soon. And that
Inshallah.
would be the thing that we would like to do, is some kind of a
Mm-hmm.
tribute collection.
Mm.
Until then, I don't know. Who knows what happens next, right? It's just, yeah, we have to, as you said, I really appreciate that you said that we're trying to honor. I'm glad that that comes across. It is very important to us to honor our heritage, even if we're trying to play around and modernize it in other collections and things.
Mm-hmm.
It is very important for us and to honor people how they are now as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that is something that resonates with so many Tatreezers, but also people who just love Tatreez too, who love wearing
Yeah.
Tatreez. I think that's why brands like yours are so appealing, because it makes Tatreez feel much more accessible and look more accessible too.
Well, so our one of the things behind our concept was, as you said, I came from a research academic-y perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Not a formal one, an informal one, but we wanted to. I felt that a lot of the Tatreez we see is either in the thobe or it's in the museums and the books
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the. So I wanted something a bit more wearable, a bit more, day to day. It didn't
Yep.
need to be super formal. It didn't need to be um or as let's say heavy with the heritage
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. I wanted something that it's like, oh, you just walk on the street. Like the Ramallah top has been worn by so
Mm-hmm.
many different kinds of people in so many different kinds of ways. I remember once we had a photographer and she loved the Ramallah top. She bought it for me on the spot. She's a foreigner. I don't like, she's not Palestinian, is my point. And
Mm-hmm.
she loved the top so much and she just put it on. Like she was wearing jeans. She just put the top on, tucked in the front, and it looked amazing. It's just, so this is the kind of thing we were going for. It's just more, it's not something so sacred that we can't have it in our day to day. And actually, in that way, we feel it's more with you. It's more alive. It's more part of your life.
Yeah.
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 Which is, yeah, what Tatreez is all about. It is alive. It's, and it changes
Right.
with time. We've talked about this a million times on the podcast. Is Tatreez evolves as Palestinians evolve, and this
Exactly.
is one way to do it.
Yeah.
Taking a step back to the definition of Taita Leila, or like how you guys define your enterprise, you say feminist social enterprise. I'm
Hmm.
curious to hear more about your definition of feminism and like what does that mean when we talk about Tatreez. Curious about kind of all of those thoughts.
So for us, feminism is obviously about empowering women, and it's obviously about equality in whatever form the woman wants it, right? So one of shall we say, an acceptable form of women earning income in a traditional
Mm-hmm.
society is by doing things like embroidery.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, to be fair, a lot of the women we meet also may have lost a huge source of income, like maybe their husband is martyred or in jail or something, or sometimes they want to make money without their husband knowing. All of these kind of things are the ways that we are trying to empower the women. So however we can help them earn what they want, what they want to earn. Um, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is there are people who consider themselves artists. Like, I'm an artist. I want to make these beautiful pieces. I want to show you some of the colors and things that we can do. So, for example, our Bethlehem tops, they are made by a woman who's also a Teta Leila in Bethlehem, actually, which is funnily enough. She's from Bethlehem and she makes the Tahriri stitch. And she would always be like, أنا فنانة. I أنا رح
Yes,
أقرر على
queen.
ألوان. No, really, it was so great. And she's like, أنا رح and I was just like, أنت حرة, do what you like, have fun. And so she would put all these different colors, and it's why we don't have one type that, one picture on the
Hmm.
website. We say there's these options for you. And she was one of the few, the only one I found, but apparently there might be one other, one of the few embroiderers who do couching stitch by hand. So I think
Yeah.
that in and of itself is also a form of empowerment, if that makes sense. She has a skill. It's
Mm-hmm.
become, I don't know if you've seen the difference between, I mean, I imagine you two have, but oh, you're like,
Sorry, sorry.
it's okay. Should continue or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll continue. Okay. Um, so I was saying, I forgot. So this Taita Leila, who does the Tahriri stitch, that in and of itself is an empowerment. And if you compare the manual, like the hand
Mm-hmm.
embroidered stitch, to the ones that were made by machine, because we tried those just to see them,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same. It looks like flat. It's totally pasted on in a way. And any way that she would pass that on, I think, is also a form of empowerment. All of this passing
Mm-hmm.
on from woman to woman, generation to generation. So, yeah, those are the ways I would define our feminism. It's empowering the women how they want to be empowered and what, monetarily, upskill, creativity wise, expression, all of those different aspects. But
We
sorry, that just to say, that doesn't mean that we don't also include men in certain aspects. So we had like male tailors. Sometimes there are men who come to our embroidery workshops. We welcome them. We don't necessarily want this to be seen as women's work either. It
mm-hmm.
is for everyone. And so we've had very young children who are like boys, school age, come to our workshops, as well as adult men come to our workshops as well. So I think that for us, that's the equality aspect of the Tatreez.
Yeah. I Okay, so we've heard this before from like Sada from Dira. She had also
Ugh,
talked about the idea that Tatreez for many of these women has become a way of empowerment and financial independence.
hmm.
What I'm curious is how has this work and specifically this work focused on kind of this feminist empowerment through Tatreez, through heritage. How has that changed you and shaped your views on Tatreez and feminism as a whole?
That is a great question. I've actually never thought of that too much.
And
Well,
maybe
part of
also
it,
just to add also one more word, labor. How does this has this changed your outlook on labor?
that's a great question, especially coming into motherhood.
Mm,
So I think that generally women and the labor that they contribute to society has always been discounted. This is something I've always felt even before Tatriz
yeah.
and before getting into this. Um, setting up Taita Leila. So all the sort of stay-at-home moms who never bring a penny at home, they're contributing to their household. They're contributing in their own ways, their own time, with their own labor. So I think that this aspect is discounted by our society, even progressive societies, like Western societies think they're more progressive. They are not. Um, and I think that this it needs to change somehow. Like somehow, some places, they subsidize the work of a stay-at-home mom in various ways, monetarily maybe, or help with for example, they might have like people come and help in the household themselves with the new mothers or people with young children. There's these sort of programs in places like Europe that exist. So I think that learning how to address this to make things feel a little bit more balanced is extremely important. That being said, I think that for me, feminism is about choice, and I don't believe that it's defined in any one way how
Mm,
to contribute, whether it's like for me personally, it's very important to be a working mother. Very
mhm,
important. I want to, for my financial independence and such. So I also appreciate that there are a lot of women who have a similar point of view. That's not to say that I would discount women who want to stay at home and look after the children full time. I think that's also a tremendous, huge amount of work. And I don't think one is better than the other. I think we just have to give people the ability to do what they want, what they can. We need to have the support systems in place to allow that, whether it's, as I was saying, like sometimes it's from the government, sometimes it's monetary, somehow that these support systems have to exist. Because I generally feel the women, whatever we choose, we're screwed.
Mm,
And that's something that is upsetting. But like I said, so because some aspects of our Palestinian society are quite traditional, and if this is one of the more acceptable ways that women can earn money,
mhm.
I'm gonna go for like if this is the way a woman wants to make money, we're, who are we to judge? We're not going to be the types to define what that looks like for any particular. It's not up to us anyways. That's what I mean. It's like it's not up to us. I think that's a very colonial mentality anyways to decide how it should look like.
Mhm.
What that empowerment and labor should look like. I'm going into more of a feminist an embroidery rant. I know this is Tatreez talk, so we got to keep it to Tatreez.
I mean, I feel like they can very easily go hand in hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think one of the things that like everyone who's been on this podcast for the most part has at least tried to please for themselves. And it's,
Mm,
again, like you can't judge anything because any Tatreezer will tell you if you know what the amount of time and the love that goes into something handmade,
Yes.
like it's
yes,
priceless. You cannot put a
Hmm.
price on that. And so
absolutely.
I think part of what we're doing at Tatreez Talk as well, like one of our goals, I hope, is to help people understand like these need to be valued higher, and especially
Yeah.
by kind of our Palestinian community out there, because this is our tradition. This is the beauty that comes from our people and holds the history of our people. Um, so kind of related but unrelated, my mind is going towards who your customers are, whether or not
Mm.
they are Palestinian. You mentioned that there was a non-Palestinian who had bought one of your pieces. I'm curious about who are you hoping buys and supports Taita Leila, and um, what, even if they aren't Palestinian, how has that reception been to the pieces and how they kind of view and talk about Palestine as well through the talqis that you guys do? This season's hottest look, genocide. From the brand that brought you fast fashion comes fast track complicity. Zara just opened its largest ever store in Israel, 45 square meters of settler chic, while Gaza buries its dead. Their Israeli franchisee hosted far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who calls for shooting civilians and expelling Palestinians. His review: beautiful clothes, beautiful Israelis. Our review: ugly politics. And yes, the jacket ad, mannequins shrouded like Palestinian bodies next to rubble. Zara called it a, quote, misunderstanding and kept cashing apartheid checks. Boycott Zara and all Indedex brands: Bershka, Massimo Dutti, Pull&Bear, Stradivarius, Oysho, Zara Home, because genocide is never in season. This anti-ad was produced by Tatreez Talk. We stitch, we talk, we boycott.
So we have had all kinds of clients, Palestinian, non-Palestinian, living anywhere, the Gulf, the US, all kinds of places. And we have a varied clientele. The one thing I would say that we have from people is typically they understand how much we bring to each collection, let's say. That is something like we once got recently, we got an email from a professor telling us like how significant they felt that having this Taita Leila in Egypt piece was for them, because their research was around, I'm not sure if it was Palestinian embroidery or just something related to Palestine. But for them, to go to the effort to send us a picture of them wearing it and saying, this means a lot to me in their own words. That is more or less the kind of clients I would say we have. We have people who do respect we try to keep the price point fair because we're not trying to make money off of the labor of the women we work with, but we're also trying to honor how much time and effort they put into it. So we pay them above market rate in like Palestinian market rate. We also put, obviously some business margins and such, but we're not selling stuff for four figures. A lot of these brands, I'm sure, are not paying people half of that they should be when it comes to making like those tobes and things. So we are trying to keep a price point that is reasonable, but still honors how much effort goes into it. And because we think of the concept so much, I think those are the kind of clients we get, people who respect the concept as well as you said, the amount of, like you were saying, Alina, I think before, the amount of labor, the amount of effort, the amount of just how much of yourself you put into your time, how much time it
Mhm.
takes you. Um, we have been spoiled with fast fashion. We're definitely one of we're trying to move away from this, and we're not competing with fast fashion. We're not trying to get to that price. We're not trying to sell at that price point. We're not trying to sell at those scales either, scales of economy. We're talking about something that is a little more unique. Like, we don't make hundreds and thousands of our pieces. For some of them we made close to 50. But we're they're still hand embroidered, they're still made with care, they take a few months, especially because of, as I said, our focus is on the embroidery. We're not just tailoring pieces with a little touch. Like, the focus and the concept is the embroidery. So, and we do need to price it accordingly, and if people don't respect that, it's okay, they're not our client.
Yeah, yeah, no, I respect that. I think it's
Thanks.
important. I also like in my classes when I teach, it's funny because people always will make that comment about like, oh wow, this is so much work. Like I can't
Mhm.
imagine what it is to make a thobe, for example.
Exactly.
And I think to echo what Lena was saying earlier, um, you know, even for people who are like I think most people who listen are probably Tatreezers at this point.
Yeah.
But when you're listening to this with one of your friends who isn't, I always say like even if it's not a practice that you consistently do, even if you just try Tatreez once, like having that understanding, I think really helps like having an understanding of the amount of work that goes into it and how tedious it can be really helps understand not just like the prices but also I think what a lot of these Palestinian women go through on a day to day.
Yeah.
It's not easy work. Like it is, as you mentioned, Noora, it's like the acceptable work in a traditional culture, but it's not easy work.
No, not at
And
all.
it's not work that they're going to become millionaires off of by any means either.
No.
How are you like, do you feel or have you seen like have you felt like you have been seeing changes in some of the women that you've been working with, especially like the ones that you've been working with for longer periods of time? Like, have you seen the change and like the empowerment that they have gained from this work?
It depends where they meet us at. Some people are
Hmm.
quite advanced and we're just another project they take on.
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that it depends on the and it depends on what we're making with each of them. Like I was saying, the woman in Bethlehem, who's the only Tahriri embroiderer that I could find,
Yeah.
I mean, she's the expert, and as I said, she was defining, like, we were like, oh, we want to make this, and she's like, yes, but I'm gonna decide how it's gonna
Hmm.
look pretty much. I'm like, okay, cool. So it really depends what level we're meeting people at. Um, at some point, when it gets too big, you need to have someone coordinate, so you don't get to know every single person that you're working with. Like, for example, in the Egypt one, I didn't get to meet them all, unfortunately. Like, I met Maha, who's the one who had Kinar in the past. And so it's more she would be following their journey and seeing how they're going. And because she also has other projects, like we're just one project of her many projects. She so she also has people to bring along with her as well. I think that's typically what you see is depending on the demand and depending on
Hmm.
how the brand does, or if there are other projects who are looking for embroiderers who want to make some exceptional pieces and things, they will be found. Um, but I would say, like, I mean, some women we have met, I think there's also a bit of this underestimation of like, oh, the poor woman, she's just learning how to embroider. Some of them are serious businesswomen. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of them in one of the women we worked with in Ramallah, she was like it was slammed, but she managed to make time for us. Like she liked me
Mm-hmm.
enough that she would
Mm.
make time. And she was always running from exhibition to exhibition to exhibition to exhibition. And she'd be showing me, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? Do you want to do this? Like so beyond the things that I would bring to her. I think that was also something that might have been quite challenging for some people. We weren't after traditional stuff. We were looking for
Mm-hmm.
people who would want to work with us, and sometimes it would take a few iterations, or take a few, like a lot of iterations to
Yeah.
get to somewhere where we were happy with things. So we also needed to find that sort of slightly more open-minded, or maybe not open-minded is what I mean, but like there's some people who they want to just embroider and get on with it. And there are some people
Yeah.
who want to experiment and
Mm-hmm.
who want to play around. And I think it's more that is the personality match rather than
Mm.
the skill level, because the skill level can progress,
Mm-hmm.
at any point. Um,
It's
but
almost too
yeah,
like there's like some empowerment in like for these women who are I guess like collaborating with you and kind of quote unquote taking a risk, right? Going outside of the
yes.
traditional. It almost feels like there's like some level of empowerment there and like
Yep.
having doing their own thing and being able to be creative in their own way.
Yes, and creative with us and creative in their own way. And then we sometimes, that also sparks ideas for their own work or for their own projects. And I think so that's we always like to think, I mean, the word is probably not great, collaborator is not a great word, but as in we work together. Maybe it's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
partnership. A
Yes.
partnership is probably a better word. But partnership is how we work. We never work with people who say, Tell me the design. We'll make 50 of these for you." End of like
Yeah.
they don't want to be involved. That's not the kind of relationship we have. We tend to
Mhm.
have a much more personal relationship. And like I said, there's this back and forth to make sure and also because we tend to be flexible on the concept in that sometimes it can go different to what we were expecting, but it might not be like it might be better.
Yeah.
And so we are open to that's why we're not what's the word I'm trying to say? That's why we're not so
Rigid?
headstrong, rigid. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm.
We're not so rigid on the design. It's been rare that we are, that there was such a clear, that we had to do something in a particular way. And usually that would be not related to the embroidery. Maybe it would be about how we photograph or something.
Mm. Yeah. No, I love that. And I love all the types of stories that you're creating as a part of this adventure. I know we asked a little bit earlier about what's next, but I did want to make sure we touched on the embroidery booklets.
Oh,
Would love to
yes.
hear more about that. Yeah.
So actually, in the COVID pandemic, Wafa Ghanem, I don't know if she's been on your podcast yet, but if she hasn't,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
okay, good.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need to have maybe she should have like a residency at your podcast. But anyways, so she and I worked together on these embroidery kits that we made in the pandemic because people were locked down and that was we saw it as an opportunity to teach people how to embroider at home. Like, well, if I was an expert at teaching people in person. I also would give some workshops here and there, obviously not at their level. Like I said, again, as I said, there we work with a lot of different levels, right? And Wafat is obviously an expert level. So we made this booklet together, and that was to accompany the original kits. But the booklets have done quite well. They just keep selling. They just keep going. And we have worked on a special edition that I want to show you now with me. This is coming out soon, like within maybe a week or two. So it's in English and in Arabic, and it's based on our booklet with a few revisions. So it's not specific to the kit,
Okay.
but um, we have also a really cute throwout that I'd love to show, and I kind of call it our fashion show of women in Twab.
That's so
So cute.
cute.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
So these are actually from an unknown artist. Wafat and I are working on tracking down who the artist is. But so far we have not been able to find who the artist is. It's from this thing called الأزياء الفلسطينية,
Hmm.
and each of these different women are dressed by the different regions.
Cute.
I don't know if
Okay,
you
we'll
can
have to share.
see
Yeah, we'll have to share
a
images
link.
on social for
Oh,
people
sure,
to
sure.
see.
Yeah, for sure. And so in it, I mean, this booklet, we included a few motifs, about 8 motifs. We also include a color guide per village and some history as well about embroidery, what did it look like in the past, and instruction on how to use waste canvas as well as how to use Aida cloth. So
Hmm.
Itamine and Marca, you can do both with some pretty clear diagrams of how to do
Nice.
some cross stitch, how to, I mean, this is effectively, when I'm giving these workshops, this is effectively the page I'm showing
Yeah.
people. The first step, right? If it's a 2-hour workshop, it's an intro to embroidery. They just need to learn. We can go in a line and save thread, and it looks really good from the back, or we can just do those X's wherever we need them.
Yeah.
So yeah, this booklet is, and we wanted to also do the Arabic, like not just English and not just Arabic and not separate. We have separate ones, and those ones are on a different type of print. It's more, so this is the Arabic one.
Mm.
And the paper is, this is more casual workshop, so you can actually write on this paper
Oh,
whatever you
nice.
might
Okay.
want. Whereas this one is more of a booklet.
Hmm.
And it's a special edition. Like, I don't know how many of these will print, but I love the throwout. That was the main thing. I
Yeah,
wanted to show you both
that's very
because there
cool.
they are. That's our fashion show.
I
Yeah,
love
that's really
that.
cool. We'll have to definitely share a picture for the listeners.
For sure. Although embargo until well, of picture, I don't mind talking about it on the podcast whenever you want to publish it. But the picture will come out once Wafat and I agree on a date. That should be in the next 2 weeks or so.
Sounds
Um,
good.
yeah, so this is it. We also wanted to make sure because a lot of the times it's circumstantial, obviously being diasporized Palestinians, like my English is very much stronger than my Arabic, but we wanted to make sure that we're including Arabic, our native
Yeah.
language,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And to make sure that the instruction was also done in our native language. And
Hmm.
the translator
Hmm.
is she's from Gaza,
Hmm.
and she is the best embroiderer I've ever seen. Like
Oh.
by far. When she flips her work, we have pictures in the booklet. When she
Mm.
flips her work, it's as if a machine could have done it, but like it's
Mm.
beautiful, it's hand done. It's
Hmm.
flawless. She's so, so good. Yeah, this is what I say, like I don't think I'll ever be at her level.
Yeah.
She's so,
I
so
like
good.
honestly, as you're talking, like even you're talking about the woman in Bethlehem, the woman in Ramallah, I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I know that it's like they are like they're the least important thing to them is like getting on social media and sharing their work. But I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
wish that like the world, like the Tatreez world, that the Tatreez community knew these women, because they are just like I can't imagine not just the talent, but like the knowledge that they
Yeah.
have. I'm just, oh, I'm like, I need all of this.
Yeah, and then just seeing sometimes the way they do it so casually, like the one in Bethlehem, she'll just be walking around. Just some people are just
What a diva. I love it.
such experts. Yeah, I'm so jealous of their skills. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I think we could talk about this for a very long time, but being mindful of everyone's time. Before we wrap up, we always ask our guests, what is a major life lesson that you have gained from Tatriz?
Oh, great. Yes, a major life lesson I have gained from Tatreez is you have to play around with it to keep it alive. As
Ooh,
in,
I
we
like that.
shouldn't be so rigid with our tradition.
Mm,
It needs to evolve.
hmm.
If we want it to stay alive, if we want this craft to be something, I mean, we do it for enjoyment, people do it for employment.
Hmm.
The If it's a craft that we want to stick around, it has to evolve.
Hmm.
And one of the ways that we can do that is by having fun and experimenting. So this, I guess, ties back to what we
Yes.
were talking about before. There is also one other thing I would say is that it really teaches you how to focus. I think that is,
Hmm.
especially in our world where we're just being pinged all the time and being distracted with the technology and stuff. I love how you lose track of time, but you
Yeah.
you feel accomplished.
Yeah.
You see like, oh, I did this, and
Mm.
oh my God, it's been 3 hours. This is in my workshops. At some point, it goes quiet, kind
Yeah.
of,
Mhm.
because
Yes.
yeah, because they're so
Yeah.
focused, right? They go quiet and they're focused, and I think that that is something we need more of in this world.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because the other day I had two friends come over and they were doing Tatreez with me for one of them for the first time, and it got really quiet and I felt awkward. Like I'm moving around, whatever, but I felt kind of awkward. I was like, "Oh, do you guys should I put on some music?" And they're like, "No." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Like they were deep in there on their focusing on the counting. So
That's
yeah,
how I know it's going well. That's exactly how I
exactly.
know my class is going. If it goes quiet at some point, I'm like, they got it. We're in.
Yeah.
They're in, they're hooked.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Noora, for joining us. It was such a pleasure, and it was so lovely to hear more about Taita Leila and your journey. Give us all the places where people can go view your work, purchase your work, stay in touch. Where should they find you?
So we are heavily, heavily, heavily shadow banned on Instagram. Who
Yep.
isn't? But you can find us on Instagram, but we're heavily shadow banned. The handle will share, I guess, in your comments and such. Ideally, you sign up to our email newsletter. So when we have big announcements like the Taita Leila Mustard Project or now the booklet's coming up in a couple weeks, you will get notified via email. So sign up to our email newsletter. And you can always just email us like info@taitaleila.com. It's on our website. That is, we do check our email regularly. But yeah, we are heavily, heavily shadow banned. Sometimes we'll miss DMs because of these. We've been shadow
Mm.
banned since about 2021 because Sheikh Jarrah, being Palestinian from Jerusalem,
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we were open, like we were talking about things
Yeah.
massively in 2021. And that's when I think that's when I started to really feel the shadow ban. Um, and since then, we've just been on a blacklist. Like we have, I don't know, 8,000 followers or something. Maybe we get 100 views. Maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
feel
worth
that.
the, yeah.
I
Yeah.
The
know.
stories is just not a good way to get a hold of people. So that's why sign up to our newsletter. That's probably the best way. And whenever we have important announcements, you'll get them.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, Nora.
joining us, Noora. This was great.
Thanks.
I'm glad we were able to chat with Noora. I think we could have continued chatting. Like, I know we had so many more questions to chat with her about, but I mean, I'm always in awe of all the Palestinians that we talk to who are working with Palestinians all over the world. And just yeah, I love what she's doing. If you guys have not seen the pieces that her team has created, like I highly encourage you to check out her website. It was funny because I was actually on there earlier before we started recording. And I was like, oh man, this dress. I remember seeing, I think it's like I forget what it is. I think it's like the Beirut linen dress or something. But like she has a dress on there, and I remember seeing it when it launched, and I was like, "Oh, I should buy this," and I didn't get it, and now it's sold out, and I was like, "Oh," it was like a little reminder. But her, like the work that they do is really beautiful, and honestly, very, very, very affordable, like
Yeah.
insanely affordable. So definitely, highly encourage people to check out her pieces, but also. And we talked about this a little bit with her after we recorded just the stories of these women that she's working with, like the woman from Bethlehem, the woman from Ramallah. Like I would, yeah, I like these women should be all over social media. They should be so well known in the Tatreez community. I wish that we could platform them more, and hopefully we can, because I think that they have just so much knowledge, like historical knowledge, but also I think what we were talking a lot with Noura about is this idea of like not being so rigid and like innovating and stuff. And I think because they are there, they are in Palestine and they're experiencing the everyday life there. It's just yeah, I have so much to say. I'm like, I can't even like properly put my words together because I'm just like in awe of all the work that they're doing. And yeah, it's just beautiful.
I know, I know. But inshallah, we'll get some more stories out. This is at least we get a little bit of an ounce of it through Noora on
Yeah.
the episode. And yeah, like you said, those pieces go fast. They are unique, they're limited. So definitely make sure you get on that email list as well. We'll definitely have the link in the show notes. Um, but always such a great episode to chat about all these things. I love it. Um, okay, well, thank you guys, listeners, for listening to Tatreez Talk. We want to hear about your Tatreez journeys. So please share your stories with us at tatreeztalk@gmail.com. And we just might have you on an upcoming episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform and be sure to leave a 5-star review. You can follow me at Lina's Thobe, Amani at Minamani, and of course follow the pod at Tatreez Talk. We'll talk to you soon.